It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Good moment. Welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness. This is Freeman Michaels.
With Barnet Bain. Good moment indeed. You know, we start these shows rarely knowing what we're going to talk about.
That's the good news.
And sometimes we have to jump into the pause, into the gap. And you know, unfortunately, this is radio. So when you're jumping into the gap on radio, you don't get to kick back.
You know, we had a show recently. Remember the show that went terribly wrong? The guy, and I won't say who it is. And
the guy who didn't show up?
No, the guy who showed up, but he is, he had a really heavy accent.
Oh, yes. And
he has a cell phone that kept breaking up.
Yeah.
So basically half a show, we had to we did a half a show and say goodbye because there's nothing we could do. No one could understand what he was saying.
Yeah. It reminded me of a one-legged organ grinder and a monkey that I used to watch when I was a little boy who used to stand outside Eaton's department store.
I love that.
We were hurdy-gurdy. We were grinding that organ, and that monkey was dancing.
Boy, but if you're curious and you want to hear that show, you can't because it was unusable. But it's interesting because it ended up being a half show, which is just you and I talking.
And it went from a half show to a no-show.
Yeah.
So, but this
that
show
was actually one of our best shows too. The guest
the no-show
show up. The no-show show.
We did a no-show show.
Oh, so people can go back and listen to that show. That's an excellent show.
We should. What about the O-show no-show show? Which was a good show.
It doesn't get out much, folks.
I don't, is the truth. That's a fact. But back to this willingness to meet life, prepared, yes, but without agenda, and unknowing, to meet the unknown in life. It's very scary, especially to welcome it. And to do that, you know, when you're doing it we have a fairly big footprint here now, don't we? We go from Santa Monica all the way up to Santa Maria on a good moment. That's for those of you that are listening to this in your cars.
Well, on the AM dial.
On the AM dial.
You know, I don't know. We have the world is changing. I think a vast number of people are tuning into either podcast or YouTube. I mean, I think that's the world.
So for all of you people wondering, what are we going to talk about on this show? We don't know, but
clearly we don't know.
We don't know, but you know, when you meet that, what occurs to me right now in real time is that you're still meeting that unknown, that pause, inside a bubble of image, of self-image, of identity, of values, of principles, of character, of socialized behavior. A lot of it is, as we've said before, kind of hand-me-down, and some of it is self-discovered. But we have identities. We meet life, whether it is known or unknown. It's just a little bit more apparent when you meet the unknown. It is more apparent that the me that is bringing that, the me that is uncomfortable with it, the me that says, "Oh, God, I look good. How can I not look good? I'm a performer." Or the me that, whatever we're bringing to the pause, to the uncertainty, is going to activate how we hold ourselves. It's going to activate what is the most beautiful, good, and true in ourselves. Ourselves. I'm talking about me.
Ourselves, our inner selves. No, that's right. And it's interesting, too, because going back to that show that ended up being just you and I having this organic conversation, which, by the way, at various moments, you know, in that conversation, you wondered out loud, like, where the heck are we going? And it's interesting because sometimes that maybe doesn't work. I mean, I'm sure there's shows that we've done in which people are like, what are these guys talking about? But there's more often than not, I think, we've begun to, or we've been able to, I don't know what the language is, rely on the pause, rely on something organic coming out. So in
all
that show,
who wander are not lost.
All that wander are not lost. So in that show, what we talked about, which I love, was we really got clear at noting the way that we're relating to things, the maybe aspect of ourselves that's relating to a particular circumstance, and be able to very consciously put the clutch in on that to really open up to a different way of perceiving it, or multiple ways at the same time, you know, and more and more and more and more ways to hold reality. So this is a relationship with uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
and relating back to our last show, even in a sense that we become that there's some real important skill sets in there, so we can navigate life and allow for these great cool things to pop up.
We develop eventually an awareness of ourselves, and then the ability to see others as well more clearly. We develop this sort of X-ray vision, be able to see when my history is acting up and which one. And X-ray vision, and you can't really have X-ray hearing, but you get the point.
So I'll tell you what I want to talk about
Superhero.
today, because I think it's the part. It's actually a carryover from last week in this context. One of the very valuable parts of this is a sense that there's a benevolent, friendly God, that there's an unfolding that is wanting to come through us or be discovered by us, or something of ourselves that's bigger than the self we've defined ourselves as, these smaller selves, this smaller definition. And I think that is the valuable conversation with our guest today.
Are you pointing at me?
I am pointing at you. Who's our guest?
I don't want to tell you now. You're pointing at me, and you're now hearing from like my
hurt
8-year-old.
little.
I'm not telling you until you say you're sorry.
I'm sorry, Barnet. Who
All right.
do we have on
All
today?
right. I'm really, really pleased to have on. This is like my very, very, very oldest brand new friend. Debra Poneman is here on Cutting Edge Consciousness today. Debra is the founder of Yes to Success. Anybody that has been in this world for anything longer than 20 minutes has heard of Yes to Success. She's a best-selling author, the co-founder of Your Year of Miracles, which is a mentoring program that has thousands of students in it from 38 or 39 countries. She's a lot of fun.
And she's here with us today. Debra, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yes, Barnet and I have been friends since we both met that one-legged organ grinder.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You know that organ grinder.
Yeah, we do. And we pretty much we flailed around to the same music together, and
look what's
we
happened.
fell in love fast. So it's just fantastic to have you with us on the program today, Debra.
And
Thank you. And I just have to say, I am so happy to be on this show because as I progress in years, people say it's, like early onset senility. I think it's early onset enlightenment, that it's getting harder and harder to think in a linear way.
I love that framing.
It's great to be here where we can just trust in a benevolent God that everything that people are supposed to hear is going to come out of our mouths.
It's so beautiful. That piece of trust. It's a spiritual maturity. And it's so gracious and it's so cool, because then life can really become fun. Like, I wonder what this is going to turn into. Even things that might at first appear catastrophic, if we're not in that struggle of trying to control, then who the heck knows, right? How many happy accidents have started off in your life, and I want to hear a little bit about this because I know a little bit, as seeming as catastrophes.
Like a lot. Wait, I have to tell you right off the bat, very, very quick story that happened last week.
Please.
My driver's license was expiring. I go to the DMV to get my new one. They say I have an outstanding ticket. I said, no, I paid it. I live in Chicago. It was from Florida. And they said, not only have you not paid it, but we need a certified letter that you've paid it. And I remember getting some letter, but I'd thrown it away months ago that proved I had that ticket. So, and I was leaving the next day for L.A. to see my good friend Barnet, my best friend, and I couldn't couldn't rent a car. So I went home, and what happens, my mug of tea spills in my purse. The entire mug of tea spills in my purse. I'm on the floor, sopping it up in my office. And I'm thinking, God, it's dirty under my desk. And what are all these papers? And, of course, what was the paper that was sticking out? The certified letter.
Yes. Oh, that is so fantastic.
Well, this is a window into the creative life.
It is.
It looks like it's coming sideways, obliquely, but it is really a snapshot of what a creative life looks like. And it involves a very mature relationship with trust. It's not an innocent, it's not the kind of trust where you blindly place your trust in life or in another, or a person or project, that's a recipe for disaster. Trust requires some cultivation and self-knowing so that you know what part of you is entrusting your energy, or what's at stake, and who's entrusting what to whom. So this willingness, Debra, this great story about hearing this thing, responding to it with curiosity.
Yeah, I wonder how this is going to play out.
And just sort of knowing that you're going to attend to it, and allowing life to wonderfully and playfully,
I love it,
work with you. And I am sure that along the way, when the tea landed in your lap, you did not go into denial about your feelings. I'm sure your reaction was energetic and angry and hot, and that you felt it fully, and then you let it go so that you were open to the next wonderful thing.
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth, Barnett, and that is when I've gotten to the point in my life that when things happen, like my whole mug of tea spills in my really nice purse, I know that it's okay because I trust in this benevolent God that that they wouldn't just that this tea wouldn't have just randomly spilled to ruin my new purse. And because it's happened so many times that I've gotten to the point that I no longer say, tea. It's just like, oh, my tea spilled in my purse. Not that I'm all that enlightened, but I have to tell you, that's where I've gotten.
It's great.
I have one of those. I got into got really locked into one of my victim stories, got really locked into one of my I'm being misunderstood, around trying to find something similar to what you're talking about. It was this little SD card that goes inside our cameras, and it was where it was literally is impossible to find. It's so impossible where it ended up. But I remember the moment I found it. I had done all of my stress dance, all of my blame dance. I had, really run my pattern out big time. And I got to a place. I was in my office, and I just stood there, and I did the surrender, and I went, "I'm so done struggling with this. I'm so done." And I turned around in that moment, and it was underneath a roll of photo paper in the middle of it. Like, there's no way I'm going to find that. And I just literally took it out. And it was a decision. I was just done with the struggle. I had run it I'd run it enough. It was time to stop. And enough of me knew, okay, we don't need to do that anymore. And there it was. So I don't know how to do this all the time in my life, but enough that I can, using the language we used before, put the clutch in on first gear, right? Because first gear is good for getting up hills, but if all I've got's first gear, then everything's a darn hill. And so the consciousness and the awareness to go, okay, that's fine, I'm putting the clutch in on that. And that's my version of that same sort of story.
As long as you don't roll downhill when you got the clutch in, you'll be all right.
Well, you might too, but then we'll know where we land then. So,
Debra, your year of miracles. So exciting. Miracles. These unfoldings that come that are beyond our logic or reason, that are outside of our explanations. And then so often we try and take the miraculous and shoehorn it inside of logic and reason and pull all the mystery out of it. And sometimes, that's always unfortunate. And sometimes we don't succeed, and then it really shifts everything. Miracles really shift everything about us, and can do that. And I really believe that miracles point to our natural birthright and the potential for who and what we can be all of the time.
And I have to agree with you, because what we teach in this year-long program is that miracles, we can't make miracles happen, because by definition, miracles are miracles. But what you can do is you could start living your life in what we call the miracle zone. And Freeman, it's like you put yourself in the miracle zone by surrendering.
Yeah.
instead of being tight, like I got to find this, and then you just surrendered, and then you opened up for that God force, that light to just flow through you and just use you as a vehicle to go over to that photo paper. And what we teach in our year-long program are things that you can do to allow yourself to live your life in the miracle zone, where miracles are just the order of the day. And I think that the energy, not to get that cosmic on you guys, but I think that the energy on the planet right now, the light that's pouring into the planet, is kind of sweeping all of us into the miracle zone. And it's a really great time to be alive.
It's a really great time to be alive if you have a certain maturity wherein you're not so bound by logic and reason, as Barnett said, and wanting to know and wanting to control. We're really talking about a relationship with an unfolding, with an unknown. What you just said, miracles. The nature of a miracle is you can't see it from here. I mean, if you could, it wouldn't be a miracle. So what you're teaching is a resourcefulness that is not commonly taught. It's a skill set that's not commonly explored, but so valuable for our time.
Yes, and it's also not the simplest thing. A lot of people, New Age teachers, they say, jump and the net will appear. And I'm like, all right, well, you go jump. But I would rather kind of just lay some groundwork for the net to appear. But I also, and I think that...
Thank you for saying that, by the way. Thank you for saying that. I want to focus on that after you finish your thought.
No, well, that's it. But I think that one of the things that we have to do is these days is emotionally jump more than, quit your job because you want to go write the great American novel and you have 6 kids to support. Like, I don't think so.
Right.
It would be nice, but I think that one of the things that we could do to start living our lives in the miracle zone is to take more jumps off the cliff emotionally, like allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, allowing ourselves to have the courage to not be perfect. Brene Brown, I know, talks about this a lot in her work and in her book, The Gift of Imperfection. But I think that that's the way that we could really start opening up to miracles in our lives. And I think that that's when the net does appear, and that when that substantiation from that higher power is, yes, I will be there to catch you if you are willing to say, I need help, I'm scared, I don't know, I screwed up. Or to, say to somebody, I love you, with no guarantees that they're going to say I love you back. Or to not pretend that you know it all at work, but to ask for some support, even if you are the CEO. And to just, fully embrace your vulnerability. I think that's when the net is going to appear for you.
I love that.
We have to take a moment to go to our advertising net.
What supports us?
We are going to drop into our most authentic selves now and ask that you all listen to our fine words from these advertisers and support them as they support us. And if they don't support us, then
we'll talk about the other net.
We'll discuss that on the other side of the break.
Stay with us. We're right back here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Thank you for staying tuned to Cutting Edge Consciousness. I'm back with Freeman and our guest, Debra Poneman. Debra and I were walking on Sunday through a farmer's market, and we made a new friend there. The cutest little donkey, like about probably 3.5 feet tall, Waffles. So I love this donkey. I'm crazy about this donkey. I'd like to have her on the show, but because she is a fantastic. I've met a lot of fabulous teachers in my life. Most of them animals. And,
yes.
She is so completely in the moment, so completely present. Not that I want to broom away all of my gifts of thinking and feeling and doing so that I can become a dumb animal, but she is just so, there's just such beauty in being with a creature as still as Waffles. And so we logged more than a few minutes cuckooing to Waffles. And Deborah, you certainly were pretty taken with Waffles.
Well, you know, when we were supposed to meet and you said we were going to meet by Waffles, I was looking for a restaurant named Waffles. And I actually even asked a few people, where is the Waffle House?
Oh, that's funny.
And then it turns out that Waffles is this little sway-back donkey that just stands there and looks at you and looks through you and knows everything.
Yeah.
You know,
and is totally in the present time.
Yeah, that's interesting because one of our very popular clips is when Barnet, the Petting the Horse show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this idea that all of, I can tell the briefest version of it, that all of our adaptive patterns don't work on horses, that they really
or
can,
donkeys.
Or donkeys. The animals can cut through a lot of the things that we've come to identify with and rely on, that, interesting enough, I think in this conversation, we're recognizing become less and less useful. And this is a really important conversation, that, you know, our knowing and our controlling and our information and how we've, you know, put everything together so that it fits a certain image, for so many people is coming apart. And what's so gracious on the other side of that is some humility, some vulnerability, some intimacy that we can't have when we're in that mindset of wanting to fix and control and make everything look right, right?
Yes, and because we're afraid, well, you know what we're afraid of? We're afraid of love, and because, you know, the ego is certain that love is very, very dangerous. And so what we do is we manufacture all of these ways to keep love out of our lives. And one of the ways we keep love out of our lives is by not allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. God forbid somebody should see us and see our imperfections, and then they won't love us. But it's just a trick. The ego has got it all down, and because the ego is afraid of love. So
in presence, in being more fully in the moment, and that is absolutely a practice, folks. We're not suggesting, I'm certainly not suggesting that I have this down, nor am I suggesting that this is something we're going to just pick up in the next 10 minutes or the next workshop. But in presence, in the cultivation of presence, presence and ego do not exist simultaneously. The ego is not in the moment. And so when you are in Waffles, like in the presence of Waffles style showing up, being in the moment Waffles style, there is a relationship between presence and the ability to the field of being opened to miracles. There's a really, really big relationship to that, and I want you to comment on that, Deb.
Well, again, Waffle-style presence. See, the ego tries to micromanage every situation so that people think that they need to have everything in place. The ego wants assurances that before it loves, that it's going to get love back.
If then.
Okay? And Waffles is not living from the place of the ego, so Waffles just loves. It's like a dog. You know, you can kick a dog and be mean to a dog, and the next time you walk in the door, it's like, you know, so happy to see you.
Yeah,
because
Eckhart said this really wonderful thing about a dog. There are some dogs you just look at the dog, and that takes nothing more, and their tail starts going, life is good, life is good, life is good.
Yeah.
They're so present.
And when what we give, which is needing to be having assurances, that's not love, because love doesn't have an agenda. I guess I could be trite and say, you know, Valentine's Day is coming up, but love's not interested in outcomes. Love is not trying to get something. And when the outcome doesn't matter, that's love. And that's the animals, they're not looking for an outcome. So they could just be in love. We're looking for an outcome. I mean, some people they won't even give love until they're sure you're going to marry them.
Yeah. Ring by spring.
Yeah. But not waffles. And see, if we could be more like waffles, just think how much more precious our life would be. Just, I got to be really graphic. You might have to delete this part if there's ever a replay. But I have a little dog, a little Boston Terrier. And when I take her for a walk, and she just stops in the middle of the grass, and she poops in front of everybody. And I think
we can say poops.
Yeah, poops on the radio.
Poops is good.
We've already been down that road.
Yeah, we can say it. We just can't do it, but we can do it.
About this, so yeah, you're safe.
But I think about it. I think about how we just twist ourselves in a pretzel to make sure that we're perfect. And then look at these dogs. They just go on the street. They poop.
Yeah, they're right out there. There's not a lot of tucked inness.
So there is something that happens.
It's not edited.
There's something wonderful that happens when we can show up at the edge of our realness, at the most vulnerable place. And I'm not talking about making a show of vulnerability or turning that into a performance or a manipulation, but an honest humility to be open to the next new thing and to reveal yourself and to not withhold who you really are. There's something so wonderful about it because life has a way of spinning off in unexpected ways developments that I think I remember Bucky Fuller used to call this procession. It's what happens while you think you're making other plans. Yeah. So we're watching Waffles, and we hear this story from Waffles. I just love this course. I mean, this thing.
I love how you call it a course.
I went for never mind.
No, but I love that.
It is a course.
Because there's the courses, such as the year-long miracles course, which is fantastic, great thing to do. And there's these little courses we get every day in life.
Every moment you're getting a course. So
that was
Waffles has this incredible sway back that Debra pointed out, and it's also she's really shaggy, except the sway back is not. It's like finely clipped. It's like sheep were on it. But it turns out sheep were on it, because Waffles shares a stall with a retired racehorse who is very neurotic and high-strung, and Waffles chills her out. And when they feed the racehorse, they put the racehorse's oats on Waffles' back. And the racehorse nibbles her oats off Waffles' back. Waffles loves it, and she gets this mohawk clipping.
Waffles loves being of service.
Waffles is a lover. But you show up, and your being becomes beneficial in ways unexpected. It all becomes an enchanted miracle.
And what I want to chime in about that, because this is the nature of this conversation, that takes a certain maturity. There is something we get to where we can put down our knowing in favor of something yet to be discovered.
Your course of your year of miracles is a wonderful way to become introduced and become exposed to this. So say a little bit more about this.
Please, tell us about it.
The course, your year of miracles, and I just wanted to comment on what you were saying. It's a little bit of maturity, and I was just interviewed for a film that's going to be made about people over 50. And
are you over 50?
I am over 50. I know it's hard to believe, but I am.
I can't believe it.
I know, it's a shock. But the thing that I said, and so many other people say, is that when you are younger, you spend so much time on image and making sure that you look perfect. And as you get older, you realize that time is kind of running out, and do I really want to waste all my time on that? And then what we realize is that all of those things that we think are going to bring us happiness, like the corner office, like the perfect children, and like looking perfect, those are actually what keep us from the happiness, from the miracles. And what really allows us to have the miracles is if you could let go of who you think you should be in order to be who you really are.
That's awesome.
And that's the thing. Who you really are is, of course, it's just love, just a loving being. And what we teach in our year-long program, and every month is focused on a different subject. The first month is creating your vision, and the next month is on self-love, and then there's a month on health and vitality, and then there's a month on getting rid of the clutter. And it all comes back to living in that miracle zone. Believe it or not, those big piles of newspapers and papers that are cluttered, that at the top of your stairway and the bottom of your stairway and all over your office, that's keeping you from living in the miracle zone, because that energy stops the flow. If you want to have your soulmate and you have your bedroom just overflowing with junk, and the nightstand that should be his or hers is overflowing with, there's a apple core sitting on it, that's keeping you from living in the miracle zone and allowing that soulmate to come into your life. So we treat everything, even the apple core on the nightstand, as something that you can lift up, throw away, dust off, and it will put you more in the miracle zone. So everything we teach is just about how to live more in that place where miracles are just the order of the day. And we have people pick 3 miracles at the beginning of the year and manifest them by the end of the year. And we're talking big miracles, and that's what it's all about.
I love it. And all the miracles in between, because as we know, there's the things we're aiming for, and there's the things that happen just because that's how it works.
Beautiful.
Well, it would be a miracle if we had more time today, but I can guarantee
that's what we need to work on.
We can invite the miraculous, because next time Deborah is in town, we'd love to have you come down to the station. And
I think
we'll
that would be fun,
live.
and then we could all 3 go together on a donkey ride.
Exactly.
Yay! Go visit Waffles.
Exactly. Well, maybe we'll plan it around Easter, because I know Waffles is a star around that season.
Big time for
Deborah,
We can take our picture on top of Waffles.
on top of Waff.
And if we're really good, we can have some oats off his back.
We are so grateful for your time with us today. I love being with you live, and I love being with you on air.
Yeah, thank you for your loving presence here.
Where can our folks go to learn more about what you're most excited about now?
They could go to the farmer's market and meet
Waffles. Yes.
I'm most excited about right now.
www.waffles.com.
Yes2success.com. YESTO, not the number 2. Yes2success.com.
Yes2success.com. We are so grateful to have you. Lots of love to you until the very, very next time. Freeman, you want to say goodbye?
I do. And so, again, when you're here in Los Angeles, we're going to have you in the studio. And I am just so grateful you spent the time to hang out with us.
Thank you, and I look forward to that's enough to make me come back to L.A. Not the 30 below in Chicago with the wind chill.
Come on back. And by the way, before we let you go, let Daniel know that I'm a little overwhelmed now, but as soon as I get to that, I will get to him.
Fabulous, I'll tell him.
Good.
Thank you.
And for those of you listening, I invite you to stay with us, because Barnett and I will be back after the break.
We're going to talk about Deborah behind her back.
To wrap things up here on Cutting Edge Consciousness. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnet Bain. Hey, I'm up to going out and mustering up some miracles. Let's go see what we can play with here today. What cool things we can get into and marvel at the unfolding and make meaning out of and so forth.
The biggest piece, I'm delighted to say that I experience miracles more and more and more consistently. Small miracles, I am more comfortable with.
Right.
So I've had some really huge ones, as you know.
Yeah,
some things that just these wild things. And again, the mind wants to make sense of it. The ego wants to make sense of it, and the ego doesn't always show up as some big bad troll.
Right.
It can often, it shows up as because it is so married, it's in such a long-standing romance with logic and with reason that it undermines the hold of that we have on reality through logic and reason when miracles show up. It just undermines everything. So we want to find facts, or we want to go scientific, or we want to thread it out into a straight line. And when there are big, big miraculous things, that's really a tough one.
It's disorganizing for that part of us that's learned to hold the world in that very tight, restrictive way.
Which is pretty much all of us.
Yeah. But the thing that's different is that we like having our mind blown. It's fun.
Well, it's a practice. I mean, it requires practice. Sometimes,
Yes.
Every time I say to myself, well, that's too good to be true.
Oh, yeah.
That is a direct communication from the part of from the one that wants to be in control, would rather be right than happy.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge, out of my own experience, there is a line. There are levels of, we don't experience more than we can handle. It self-selects out because there are levels of the miraculous. One day I said to myself, I'm really open to, let me just see, let's just see if I can open to as much success as I can. And be careful what you ask for. So I started getting bang, 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 and pretty soon I got anxious. It made me really anxious, and I was aware of saying, whoa, this is too much, stop. I remembered making the choice because it can be disorganizing. So we open to the more in our own timing, and it requires some cultivation of that. Just as you open the heart to a relationship with your loved ones in your own timing, to open to the fact that outside of, if we were living in miracles all the time, do you know what our life would look like? It would look like a dream. So everything we think we know about who we are and how life works, bang, out the window.
Yeah.
That can be unsettling.
Yeah, it's interesting because you've used the language in the past, these moments where you pop off the reservation, where the way that you've held things in that moment isn't necessarily what's defining the experience. You're having this out of construct experience, out of body maybe, out of whatever, out of the ordinary, extraordinary, spontaneous. And those moments do become frightening. It's interesting. I even want to track back the first Wives show when we were talking about the edge of intimacy and where, we have this run of really feeling like we're so connected and then having this moment, at least in my experience, of pulling back from that and going, it's too much,
We can't handle that much
Can't
energy.
handle it.
We
Can't
have to
handle it.
develop a capacity for it.
I'd rather be wanting it than
I'm used to
it.
I'm wired. I know how to do it.
I know how to want
I
it.
know how to want.
Yeah, wanting's easy, but when I
But
actually
to
have it, whoa.
I am more comfortable with all of the strategies
Yeah.
and all the stories I have around strategies, all the things that I do for love without knowing that I'm loved all along. Now, if I really open to the knowing that I'm loved all along, then I don't have any reference to how to behave that. I only have reference for the strategies to get love.
It's like what I was talking about. I know who I am in the middle of the struggle. Like that part of me, I totally understand. Put down the struggle and just pick it up. Oh, who knew? But I mean, that is in that moment.
That's more scarier. That's scarier than struggle.
Yeah. Well, in that moment, it's so fascinating because it's that surrender that I'm over this, like enough. There was the putting it down. It's so interesting because it is kind of vulnerable and it is a kind of, because there's always this little thought, well, what if it doesn't work? Struggle is pretty consistent in my life. I know what that looks like. But this other thing, we top out. I think that's the right language. It just is too much.
You have to develop an emotional body that can handle that much energy, a physical body that can handle that much energy, again, without getting too cosmic, an astral body. We're energy systems, and we are in certain patterns of energy. And now you're running like 150 volts through a 60-watt wire. You're gonna blow out. You have to learn how to build that capacity.
It kind of goes back to your China trip when you went to China
Yes.
and you just blew out.
I totally blew out.
But what I love about that story is that the aspiring to is still intact. It's just
I
in
was
that
shocked
moment.
at how first paranoid and then so anxious, and that energy has to go someplace, and it goes down all of the channels that I have habituated, and it's, to use the analogy of a riverbank, the energy it overcrests the riverbank and it spills all over the place, and we go into chaos. And our crises that we face in our lives, they are always about meeting challenges that inundate us with more energy than we are equipped to handle. And the energy just splatters all over the place. You think of these folks who win lottery tickets. You know, they win
a great
these,
example.
and there is this astonishing research, which I don't need to quote now because people will push back and say, really? Just take a look, Google that. Google the percentage of the 1% that retains that money. It's less than 1% that retains that money, because we say, good things come. And yes, they're good things, but we don't have patterns of thought and expectation and imagination that are juicy enough to hold that.
It's again tracking back to old shows when DC Cordova came on and she said, if you don't have a sense of deserving, and that comes in, you won't hold it. You'll simply bleed it out. So actually, similar to what our last guest was talking about, is it's a real course to begin to develop the capacity, if you will, to hold that much energy in the form of money, or that much
or
energy
a relationship,
in the form
or
of
love, or
intimacy,
mattering,
right?
or life
Exactly.
mission, or
Creativity.
meaningful relationships, or satisfying work, or creative endeavors. However, sometimes we get blind because we look at other people and we don't realize everybody is pursuing their own course and filtering it through their own calibrations are set up. So we think we all were dealt the same cards, and then if they can do it, or she can do it, or I can do it. I was lost in that one for a long time.
Yeah,
a long time, and I still find myself going, well, how come?
Right. Well, part of the commitment that you and I have made, which is what this show is. I mean, part of why you agreed to do the show is A, it would be fun, but B, it also was slightly unnerving, and you didn't know if you'd be good at it. I love that. So saying yes, we've talked about that, and of course the whole Debra
Poneman.
Yeah, her thing is the yes. It's the yes. That's the name of her company. Just yes, saying yes.
Or as our friend Karen Hoya says, just say yes.
Yes.
Just say yes.
But okay, so now let's weave in this thing. There is an orientation towards stretching or growing or expanding, and that is it. There is an orientation towards that. There's an orientation towards miracle. Like, let's play with miracles. Hey, that would be cool. And allowing it to get fuzzy, and it's going to be an interesting ride, because the nature of it is, you don't get to know. That's the nature of it. You can't see it from here. Anything happens, and I assure you, it's not what you think it's going to be. It's not what your plans. But that's okay. We just go on the ride.
We operate with 5 senses, as an example. So suddenly, 5 common senses, and then there are all these uncommon senses that we've talked about from time to time. Until you have experiences of uncommon senses,
right?
Intuition, all sorts of things. These are some of the emergent faculties that are kind of coming online. We don't have if you're colorblind, you don't have the ability to relate to a world filled with color. So we don't have from here the ability to perceive or conceive of what lies in store. And if we could keep returning back to the way it has been, then whatever that information that Debra was referring to, that light information, that energy in formation that we are experiencing, will always be compressed back into what was. It's a opportunity and an adventure to turn on more of ourselves, light more lights.
But Debra said is important. Like, no time in human history, we're all being pushed to grow, because the small container can't hold it. So there is a blowing out, if you will, of the paradigm that we've held, because it isn't where we're going. So there's this embracing of unknown. There's this embracing of the journey itself. There's this unfolding. This is what we're committed to here. And there's stretches. There's little places where I know I can stretch, because the ability to stretch is really crucial. We go back to something Greg Braden said in terms of adaptability. The whole
on this show,
that what he was talking about in terms of Darwin's theory of evolution, it isn't the survival of the fittest. He's saying that what it was the ones that survive and thrive are the most adaptable, and so. Again, this is the part of the adaptability is this relationship with unknown, this ability to stretch and grow. Carol Dweck's book Mindset sets this up for today's business, to be successful in the business world. This open-mindedness, this learning orientation, this growth mindset. And where people are really having a harder and harder time and becoming less and less relevant is when they're fixed. And for people who have succeeded in a particular way, it's hard to put that down, in favor of unknown. If I've been really good and it's worked and I've got power and I've got prestige, it's hard to let that go. But those folks in this new emerging paradigm are becoming less and less relevant. To be relevant is to have this growth mindset, this orientation towards stretching, this fascination with things that are miraculous. That's the juice. That's the juice that is the path forward from my perspective.
To be willing to let the very next thing be fundamentally totally different from what was, just because we're comfortable and we're familiar with what was. Can I have a juicy enough imagination, an open enough mind, an open enough heart to allow the very next moment to come with lots of surprises and be entirely different?
And folks have to kind of train for this. I mean, that it's a year-long course and becoming more relational.
Year-long, that's pretty good.
With miracles.
It's been a 60-odd year.
Well, of course, no.
Here, but it would be fantastic to. It doesn't have to be a 60-year. It'd be fantastic to be able, as our listeners are able now, to short-circuit the 60 years of looking around, to go on to a accelerated program of discovery and mentorship, and in 1 year to fundamentally change your orientation to life and be a fertile ground for the planting of miracles and the flowering of miracles. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a program we recommend.
Or you can just call her on the phone and just get it one-to-one. I personally like that one better.
Well, not everyone's got a personal phone number.
Well, you got to speak.
She doesn't. Not everyone. She doesn't fly to everyone.
You got to
go hang out in the
You got to speak to Waffles, and Waffles can take care of you.
We got to get a shot of Waffles up on the Facebook page or the website.
I have a shot of Waffles.
Oh, good. Let's put it up.
I do have a shot of Waffles.
Let's put it up. That's funny. Hey, can we do a quick check-in? Because I'm curious where things are at. Now, I realize the date that folks may listen to this is slightly different than the date today.
Yeah.
But any updates on anything fun going on for you?
Updates, yes. Well, here a number of things. The Rwanda movie
beautiful
is,
film.
Thank you, is probably will be delivered. We're doing the music now. Probably be delivered in about 6-7 weeks. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
And what else is going on? I wrote a book.
That's
called The Book of Doing and Being.
This is huge, Barnett.
It is coming out from Simon & Schuster, either at the very end of this year or the beginning of 15. It's finished, and I'm now in a new book about relationships.
Yay.
And lots of really good things. The Milton movie is moving along and moving forward piece by piece by piece. And as you mentioned earlier, yet another draft of the screenplay.
Can I say something about all of this? Because the interesting part, having been with you on so many of these pieces that are falling into place, is the moment that they really involve the risk. Each one of them was such a huge risk for you. I know that because I watched you step into the unknown with each of these projects that's now coming to fruition in such a beautiful, magnificent, miraculous way. But that's the nature of it. So there is something that we have to be willing to allow to die or to pass on, to embrace the next piece. And it's not going to be what we think it's going to be. It's not going to take a direct course. It's going to be bendy and windy. And just know the stretching is the preparation for us to step in and say yes to whatever that thing is when it arrives. So blessings on you, my brother, for all of these things that are manifesting. And for you, the listener, we're
and I'm a late bloomer, so there's hope.
We're grateful that you've tuned in. We hope that you are able to continue to stretch and receive all the blessings that are the unfolding of that stretching, and they surely are. And we invite you, of course, to keep coming back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Thanks for listening.
Bye now.